You are walking across your living room floor on a perfectly quiet evening, completely absorbed in your own thoughts, when you suddenly stop, turn around, and wrap your arms tightly around your dog, pulling them into a warm, affectionate hug. You squeeze them gently against your chest, press a soft kiss into the fur on top of their head, and feel a deep sense of personal comfort. You smile, release your grip, and assume your companion is feeling just as loved, safe, and emotionally fulfilled as you are in that exact moment. But if you could pause time and look past the surface of their cooperative stillness, a wave of cold reality would wash over you. This isn't a moment of mutual connection. It is a moment of profound, silent endurance that triggers an immediate spike in their internal stress levels. While you think you are expressing ultimate devotion, you are actually engaging in a behavior that your dog's ancient evolutionary programming fundamentally dislikes. There is a hidden, psychological friction operating in the background of your daily routine, a collection of normal human habits that we assume are harmless, but actually stress our dogs out in ways we completely fail to perceive. Once you decode the science behind what they are truly experiencing, you will realize that you are accidentally misinterpreting their quietest boundaries every single day. Think about the way you walk through the front door after a long, exhausting day away from the house, and your companion rushes over, their tail wagging aggressively from side to side while they let out an excited whimper. You look down, match their explosive energy by using a chaotic, high-pitched baby voice, and aggressively pat the sides of their face to match their enthusiasm. You assume that by elevating your own behavior to match their intensity, you are validating their joy and making them feel incredibly secure in the pack. But the twist is that this sudden, erratic burst of human energy is actually overloading their nervous system with an intense wave of confusion and anxiety. When a canine greets another member of their species, the interaction is structured around a calm, predictable ritual of mutual scent tracking and slow body adjustments. When you disrupt that natural baseline by shouting, waving your hands, and pinning them down with intense visual attention, their brain cannot figure out if you are experiencing a state of absolute panic or a state of joy. In behavioral science, this is an act of emotional turbulence that forces them to absorb your erratic stress instead of finding their own calm center. It is a moment of profound sensory disconnect that reminds us that while we use noise to express love, our dogs require structural serenity to feel truly safe in our presence. This sensory friction becomes even more intense when we step outside the house and begin navigating the micro details of a standard neighborhood walk. You are strolling down the sidewalk, holding the leash firmly in your palm, when your dog suddenly drops their nose into a random patch of dry grass or stops at the base of a completely ordinary fire hydrant, refusing to budge for a solid 30 seconds. You feel a wave of impatience wash over you. Give the leash a sharp tug and force them to keep moving, assuming that because the walk is meant for physical exercise, letting them linger over a dirty piece of concrete is a complete waste of time and a sign of simple stubbornness. But the reality is that by cutting that interaction short, you are effectively blindfolding your companion and denying them access to their primary mental landscape. A dog's sense of smell is up to 100,000 times more acute than ours, and when they sniff an object, they aren't just registering a pleasant scent. They are reading a dynamic, highly detailed neighborhood bulletin board. They can deduce the age, health, emotional state, and diet of every animal that has passed by that exact spot hours prior. In neurological terms, forcing a dog to walk without allowing them to sniff is a form of sensory deprivation that leaves their brain feeling deeply isolated from the physical reality of their territory. It is a moment of high-stakes cognitive frustration, proving that while we view a walk as a physical destination, to your dog, it is an essential act of intellectual research that allows them to feel safely connected to the wider universe. As you begin to realize that your dog is a hypersensitive observer who spends every waking hour navigating the quietest friction points of our human habits, the way you structure your day starts to look like a high-level cross-species negotiation. You realize that their odd moments of backing away or staying perfectly still aren't random animal quirks, but the magnificent, patient compromises of a creature that has rewritten its entire life just to tolerate our loud, erratic lifestyles. This journey into the brilliant hidden psychology of the canine mind is what we explore here every week, unmasking the complex storytelling that happens in the silence of their vigilance. If you're starting to see the profound value of listening to the boundaries of the silent partner resting on your rug, joining this community by subscribing is your way of promising to honor their natural world as intently as they study yours. We are learning to translate the language of the pack together, because in their universe, the ultimate form of leadership isn't about imposing our loud will. It is about providing the quiet, predictable stability they need to feel truly understood under our roof. By staying curious, you aren't just an owner managing a household pet. You are becoming a conscious partner in an ancient legacy of mutual survival, ensuring that their deep-level compliance is met with the profound empathy they deserve. The mystery of this daily friction takes an incredibly subtle turn when we look at how humans use direct, prolonged eye contact during ordinary, quiet interactions around the house. You might be sitting across from your dog, feeling a sudden wave of affection, and you lock your eyes onto theirs, staring unblinkingly into their pupils, while smiling widely to show your warmth. The common assumption is that because humans view direct eye contact as a primary marker of intimacy, honesty, and deep personal bonding, your dog must read that intense gaze as a beautiful declaration of emotional safety. But the twist is that in the ancient, instinctual vocabulary of the canine world, an unblinking, direct stare from a larger entity is a primal declaration of dominance, a visual challenge, or an indicator of an imminent threat. While your dog has evolved to tolerate this behavior from you due to your established relationship, their internal chemistry is still processing a wave of low-level apprehension. Their muscles tighten slightly, their ears drop backward, and they may lick their lips or look away, all clear signals that they are working incredibly hard to diffuse what their primitive brain interprets as an aggressive confrontation. It is a ritual of deep evolutionary tolerance, where they willingly suppress their wild survival reflexes to accommodate our lack of social grace, proving that their devotion to us is strong enough to override the oldest survival scripts written into their DNA. This instinctual tolerance brings us directly to a behavior that happens in almost every household every single day, yet is consistently misinterpreted by owners as a sign of simple playfulness: the sudden, unexpected pat on the head. You walk past your dog while they are resting quietly on their bed, and as a quick gesture of greeting, you bring your hand down directly from above, tapping them squarely on the top of their skull several times before continuing down the hallway. You assume that because they don't growl or run away, they view that quick physical contact as an affectionate, reassuring pat on the back. But the reality behind this interaction is that dogs find objects descending directly over their field of vision to be deeply invasive and inherently alarming. If you watch their body language closely during a top-down head pat, you will notice that they instantly duck their neck, blink their eyes defensively, and slightly flatten their posture against the floorboards. To a dog, a hand approaching from below the chin or along the side of the neck feels infinitely safer because it allows them to maintain a clear line of sight and read your intentions. When we drop our hands directly onto their skulls, we are forcing them to endure a micro-moment of physical vulnerability, transforming a simple passing greeting into a quiet test of their patience that breaks our heart once we realize how easily we could adjust our touch to match their comfort. The powerful insight that reframes every single one of these daily stressors is the realization that your dog's entire life is a magnificent, constant exercise in human accommodation. In the end, we have to ask ourselves, why would a creature built with sharp teeth, hyper-advanced senses, and a fierce evolutionary heritage choose to spend its brief years on this earth, quietly enduring our invasive hugs, loud voices, and restrictive walks? The answer is that your dog understands an elegant truth that our modern, independent world often forgets: that the integrity of the bond is entirely worth the cost of the compromise. They don't withhold their loyalty just because we are clumsy leaders who speak a completely different physical language. They adjust their boundaries, process their anxiety in silence, and choose to love us precisely because they believe in our fundamental goodness. Every time they stand perfectly still during an overwhelming hug, check our face during an erratic greeting, or patiently wait for us to finish pulling on the leash, they are executing a silent, sacred ritual of absolute grace that outshines our own human understanding of patience. The true emotional depth of this relationship reveals itself when you realize that your dog is the only creature on earth that will willingly rewrite its own survival instincts just to make you feel comfortable in your own living room. They spend their short years on this planet adapting to our erratic schedules, filtering out our environmental noise, and absorbing our emotional turbulence, never demanding an explanation because they have placed the total custody of their happiness into our hands. The boundaries they try to show us aren't a sign of rejection or a behavioral flaw. They are the quiet, fading whispers of an animal that is asking you to meet them halfway across the evolutionary divide. When you finally understand that their compliance is actually a high-level act of psychological fusion and evolutionary love, your relationship changes entirely. You stop seeing a pet that simply lives in your house, and you start seeing a brilliant, vulnerable friend who has decided that your presence is worth every single piece of comfort they have to give up along the way. In the end, we have to recognize that our dogs are the ultimate diplomats of the natural world, bridging the gap between our sterile, artificial environments and the raw, beautiful honesty of ancient instincts. They don't ask us to change our entire world. They only ask that we pay attention to the small ways we disrupt theirs. They are the silent partners in our daily lives, the ones who believe that your presence is worth every single ounce of their concentration, their patience, and their quiet endurance. They aren't just animals that share our rooms. They are the keepers of our empathy, magnificent researchers of the spirit, who have decided that despite all of our loud, clumsy human flaws, our arms are still the only place in the entire universe where they truly want to rest their heads. The next time you walk across your living room floor and feel the sudden urge to lean down and interact with your companion, don't just rush in with a loud voice or a top-down grip out of pure habit. Take a deep breath, lower your body to their physical level, approach them from the side with a calm, predictable hand, and realize that you are standing in the presence of an absolute evolutionary marvel. Honor the silent boundaries they carry in their DNA, protect the peace they seek from your side, and remember that to the beautiful, non-judgmental mind watching your life unfold, true love isn't measured by how tightly we can hold them. It is measured by how safely we can let them breathe. Your dog doesn't tolerate your clumsy human habits because they don't care about their own comfort. They do it because they've decided that keeping the pack together is the only thing that truly matters in this world.